If you have been following the channel, you would know that I've been talking about this Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones potential matchup way before Jon Jones made his comeback and before Tom Aspinall actually ended up becoming the interim champion. My initial takeaway was always this: no matter what, everybody says and they think that they can be the next guy, or the MMA community pushes them, the UFC pushes them, everybody seems like they can be the next guy to beat Jon Jones, but what happens every time? Jon Jones ends up winning. Now, I understand there's things like PEDs, there's things like eye pokes, there's things like robberies, but at the end of the day, Jon Jones always gets the win. And my initial takeaway was Tom Aspinall would be no different. I have now changed my tune after watching Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic, and we're going to talk about it in a second. As always, guys, I would love to know what you think about it down below afterwards. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with many YouTube channels. So it seems like that this is the next fight that we're going to get, Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones. So why did I change my mind initially? It was just because of that performance against Stipe Miocic. Taking a look at like the top 5 in heavyweight, I don't know who they are at the top of my head, but like we take guys like Cyril Gane, we have guys like Alexander Volkov, Sergey Pavlovich, guys like that. And I understand that we just saw Jones versus Gane, but the problem is Gane lacks a ground game. Tom Aspinall doesn't lack a ground game. I think that Jon Jones against Stipe Miocic looked old and slow. Could have been the injury, could have been Jon Jones just getting old, because I noticed that Jon had some gray in his beard. He didn't look to be in as good a shape as we've seen him before. And I know he looked like that about Gane, but I was watching that Jon Jones in the octagon and going, okay, Volkov might beat him. I don't know if you guys are feeling the same thing, because people are still talking about him being the greatest of all time, which that might be another video in itself, by the way. The switch up all of a sudden, the MMA community doing what they do best. All of a sudden a guy wins, and then we forget about all of the hate and all the horrible things this guy does. You're the champ, Jon Jones. You beat a 43-year-old Stipe Miocic, and Stipe looked like he would lose to he looked like he might lose to the guys that we make fun of at the end, man. At the end of the division. My point being, I think anybody in that top 5 would have at least contended with Jones and definitely beat Stipe Miocic. Stipe was a shell of his former self. I'm telling you, if anywhere near prime Stipe, even the Stipe who fought Daniel Cormier, if that Stipe Miocic showed up against Jon Jones, it would have not have been a close fight. Stipe would have murdered him. I've completely changed my tune now. My whole tune was always, no matter what, we always say this is the next guy. And I know I'm kind of like going against the same thing that I've been saying. But Tom Aspinall, he's faster, he's younger, he has a ground game. I imagine if Jon Jones tries to take him down, he'll chuck him off. If Jon Jones succeeds with the takedowns, you'll have a jiu-jitsu game going against Jon Jones, which we don't really see too often in Jon Jones' game, and that's heavyweight strength, by the way. You'll have the speed, you'll have the power, and Tom Aspinall, what have I been worried about with Tom Aspinall for so long? That chin up in the air, just like this. He fights like this so much, right? And first of all, he said that he was working on it. But man, Jon Jones doesn't have any power. He never really did. And I know like things can happen. Everybody has a chin that can get touched, right? But I have a hard time believing that those shots that Jon Jones is landing on Stipe will affect Tom Aspinall. The best chance that he has is to land those body shots. But I think Tom will be too in and out. His movement will be great. The takedowns might be on the side of Aspinall. Jon Jones hasn't fought a guy like Tom Aspinall. I know we've said this about Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane is not Tom Aspinall. And I understand if you're commenting down below as somebody who thinks that Jon Jones would beat Tom Aspinall. I get it. We say this about everybody that Jon Jones faces. I've been talking about it with Cyril Gane. Like, he's never faced a guy as big as Cyril Gane, as powerful as Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane's a great striker. With Thiago Moises, oh, this guy has some great power. Did I say Thiago Moises? Thiago Santos. This guy has some crazy power. But in reality, too, Jon Jones hasn't looked good in a lot of his fights as of recent years, and we've been pointing that out, right? Dominic Reyes, Thiago Santos, he picks his opponents, Anthony Smith, Alexander Gustafsson. You have to go back so far in Jon Jones' career to find a really good win. Tom Aspinall's the interim champ. Tom Aspinall wiped the floor with the top 5 of the heavyweight division, the rest of the heavyweight division, destroyed them. I am not confident that Jon Jones destroys, let alone beats the top 10 of the heavyweight division right now. Jon just had his good performance over at heavyweight. He looked slow. He looked not the most durable. Looked like some of those heavyweight shots from Stipe were actually affecting him. He looked almost hesitant. Tom Aspinall would charge in. I wholeheartedly believe now Tom Aspinall would beat Jon Jones. And I was one of those guys saying, hey, we say this about everybody, and Jon Jones ends up getting the win. Jones is old now. Probably, I mean, do we even know him? Like, I was going to say probably off the PEDs, because he didn't look like he was on PEDs that time around. And the most important thing is, guys, Jon Jones himself is not confident in himself to get the job done. Jon Jones wants nothing to do with Tom Aspinall. He's not looking to gamble his legacy. What does that tell you? He thinks that Tom Aspinall maybe could beat him or will beat him. He sees something in Tom Aspinall, and he even wants to say he specifically said he wants the fuck you money in order to actually fight Tom Aspinall to the point where it wouldn't matter if his legacy was damaged. I think that Jon Jones is doing what happened with Francis Ngannou. He's pricing himself out so he doesn't have to take on Tom Aspinall, and then Jon Jones can sit back and be like, well, I tried to negotiate with the UFC, but the UFC, we couldn't come to an agreement. They didn't want to pay me more. I was here, and all I was asking for was just a little bit more money. Meanwhile, we figure out that he was asking for like $75 million or something like that. Honestly, what was it against Francis Ngannou? Was it $30 million? Something like that. I don't recall exactly what it was, but I think that's what's going to happen. The same thing with Francis Ngannou. If they ever do fight, I think Tom Aspinall would floor him. Jon Jones is slow now. He is not really, I don't want to say a true heavyweight, but he is not big enough out there to really be a scary force at heavyweight. He doesn't have the power. He doesn't have the durability. Definitely doesn't have the speed that Tom Aspinall does. I'm not confident that Jon Jones would beat, and I don't mean to keep up bringing up Volkov as like a dig against Volkov because like, oh, well, Jon Jones can't even beat Volkov. I'm saying that because it's another heavyweight, and I think that Volkov actually presents a huge problem for Jon Jones. Yeah, I can see Jon Jones getting around a couple other guys. Sergey, I don't even know. Curtis Blades would ruin him. Curtis Blades only has a chin issue, and Jon Jones doesn't really have a solution to that. He'll just get taken down and beat up. He'll probably lose a boxing match, man. Like, after watching that performance, I am so low on Jon Jones now. I mean, I always thought he was a great fighter, but always kind of low on him. But I am so low on his talent in the heavyweight division that I understand why he's ducking Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall would ruin him. He would absolutely ruin him. Doesn't have the confidence, doesn't have the power, speed, anything. I would bet on that fight. And for that reason, I do not believe we are ever going to see it happen. I think Jones is going to price himself out and then be like, well, I tried, guys. I tried. But speaking of Jon Jones, though, have you seen the new best memes that actually came out from the recent press conference? Because they are some of my favorite to ever come from the MMA fan base. And man, MMA memes are some of the greatest part of being an MMA fan. You can check that out right here because we dive into those two specific memes. I would love to have you over there, guys. Take care, everybody.